Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from the UN Women Training Center. My name is Leticia Berrizbeitia. I am Capacity Development Analyst at the UN Women Training Center. It is our pleasure to welcome you today to this online conversation on sticky issues for gender trainers. This webinar also wishes to bring your attention to the blended course that UN Women Training Center and the Royal Tropical Institute KIT will offer this fall, the Certified Professional Development Program for Gender Trainers. Before we get started, a few remarks on how webinars work. You will notice there is a toolbar at the right side of your screen with a space for typing in your questions. Please note you can type questions and comments at any time during the webinar. We will keep an eye on them and compile them for the panelists to answer at the end of the presentations. I would also like to inform you that this session is being recorded. It will be posted later today on our Young Women Training Center YouTube channel. Without further ado, I will now hand over to Cam Sabat, who will introduce today's panelists. Cam, you're muted.
Thank you, Leticia. Good morning from Santo Domingo again, and good afternoon and good evening to other parts of the world. My name is Kamsawat Jantawisok. I'm the Capacity Development Specialist with the UN Women Training Center. Today, I would like to introduce to you two of our co-colleagues who are part of the program that we are working together with the Royal Tropical Institute, Dr. Maitreyi Mukhopadhyay and Dr. Frank Wong. They will be leading the discussions today on this topic on professionalizing gender trainers. So allow me to humbly introduce both of them. Dr. Maitreyi Mukhopadhyay is a social anthropologist specialized in social development with a focus on gender and development. She has expertise in social and institutional analysis, citizenship and rights in development, and integration of equity concern across sectors in policy development programs and project planning, monitoring, and evaluation. She has extensive experience and skill in applied and action-oriented research, teaching and training, and has several publications in her field of expertise. She has worked globally in Asia, Africa, and Middle East with multilateral and bilateral agencies, national governments, international and national non-governmental organizations on a broad range of development issues. And thank you, Maitreyi, for being with us today. The second speaker is Dr. Frank Wong, who is a Senior Social Development and Gender Equity Advisor and KIT Gender Team Coordinator. He has worked in development for over 25 years and as a gender specialist since 2002 in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, and has more than 20 years of experience in gender training as designer, trainer, and trainers of trainer, and research as well as an academic lecturer. Frank is also gender and organizational change specialist with expertise in gender mainstreaming in policy and strategy, research and assessment, including gender audit and capacity development for gender equality. He has trained in a variety of organizational settings, including UN agency, NGO, government ministries, and international research organizations. Frank and Maitreyi will be the lead thinker for designing this professionalizing gender trainers program, and today I would be interviewing them some questions so for us to clarify and to present you on this this program. We have our video on. If the internet is difficult in certain part of the world, please let us know, and then we will stop the video so that it might be faster for you to listen to us. Okay, so thank you, Frank and Maitreyi, for being with us today. So let's start. Can we hear your voice?
Oh, we need to unmute it.
Yes, unmute.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So we're going to have a 30 minutes of discussions, and then we would leave it 30 minutes for Q&A from participants because we have more than 100 people attending our webinar today. Okay, let's go with the first question. What is the inspiration for this program?
Okay, I'll make a start, and well, basically we wanted to question and challenge what gender training has come to mean, and what it should actually achieve. We want to bring feminist politics back into gender training for development, by which we mean revisiting those theoretical concepts that have animated feminist knowledge and given rise to its practice in development. These concepts are centrally about theories of knowledge, about social relations, and their relationship to development. So the aim is to inculcate conceptual fluency among participants so that they are able to translate this into their own gender training practice, or to question their own gender training practice too. Yeah. So what is this conceptual and theoretical understanding? Just want to go into that. Basically, it's developing an understanding and appreciation of the theories of knowledge that have given rise to gender development debates. And as we know, all questioning of theories of knowledge, all theories of knowledge question the nature of truth, how truth should be arrived at, who can be a knower, what test does truth have to pass. So what is knowable in terms of gender relations, how can it be known, and who is a knower? You know, is an ordinary woman a knower, or is it an expert who has to tell us that this is what a woman or a man or transgender person is. So it's basically about the constitute form of relations called social relations and how we arrive at that. And it's not about one true feminism, because that would be really going against the fundamental understanding that feminist analytical categories need to remain unstable, because what has happened is that because we've lost this fluency, it is unable to challenge the dominant thoughts about society, how social society develops, what social relations are. So, yes.
Maitragi and Frank, can I just ask you to speak closer to the microphone if you can, because some of our participants cannot hear you.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to do that now. Okay.
So maybe I'll just extend a little bit from that and the idea of conceptual fluency. What we find, certainly studies have shown, is that gender trainers globally, for the most part, have learned on the job. Some have some maybe university or postgraduate background in gender-related studies, but particularly have learned to become trainers through their work and have learned from others, which gives them a lot of experience, of course. But what we find is really this conceptual fluency to be able to address the different paradoxes and particular challenges that gender trainers face, and to be analytical clear about, well, just what we mean by gender, what we mean by gender analysis. And what we find, and certainly not blaming gender trainers, because we can look at also how the development industry has sort of promoted sort of very binary understandings of gender, a very fixed understanding of gender, and very definitional, which doesn't allow for the analytical power that we find in gender analysis concepts. So the idea is to build upon the extensive experience of gender training, strengthen that through this conceptual fluency, so that they're able to, from this title, is deal with the sticky issues that we can give examples with, these sticky issues around the gender training arises. One small, perhaps, correction is this is not to professionalize gender trainers. I think we're not at a position to say you're a professionalize anybody. It's a professional development in the sense that it's a high caliber, very challenging course that allows trainers to really examine their own knowledge bases and assumptions and to work within a peer setting to take them to another level of engaging with gender and gender analysis issues and gender mainstreaming within their context.
So just to add to that, basically what we're saying is that we want to challenge the knowledge paradigms which that we are expected to work within and whose logic is completely different from that of feminist knowledge, which is about transformation. So we're challenging the development paradigms itself. You can't do gender without challenging the development paradigms.
And just maybe one more issue on that, and one of the sticky issues, of course, is the existence of gender trainers within the development industry. That throws up a lot of paradoxes. I mean, one is you are working within a system that you're changing, you're trying to transform. Secondly, for gender trainers ourselves, including our specialists, you're working in a system from which you derive your livelihood. And so this really does put trainers in a sticky position. And what we're saying is that by becoming more fluent with well, not only gender concepts, but really the feminist foundations of these concepts, that we're much better able to navigate these sticky issues. And let's be clear that this course is about reclaiming the feminist space and the transformatory potential of gender training. So we come from a very specific position.
Of gender knowledge, I would say, and then how to use that in training. Well, sorry, yes, ma'am.
And Ken, we've now lost your bar. Maybe you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. You go ahead. You were about to say something.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say, well, over to you, Carl.
Oh, okay. Thank you. There has been some comments from participants that there are echoes from the presentation. So we will try to see how we improve that. But if not, let's see how it goes. If not, we might have to turn off our camera. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, I mean, these are the points, I think these are the experience that UN Women Training Center have in terms of working with different gender trainers. These are some of the issues that that we have heard from our trainers and faced by ourselves as well. The second question would that, having said what you said, how does this program, what are the needs that this program will address?
Yeah, well, I think we talked a little bit about that, but just to, in summary, go into some detail, it is this idea of conceptual fluency and linking feminist theories of knowledge to gender training. What does that mean? That not only means in terms of how one conveys, first of all, how one understands particular gender analysis concepts, but basically how does one convey so that participants in gender training do understand these concepts, not necessarily in binary terms or dichotomous terms, as often happens. And by the way, we actually see the depoliticization of gender development as a field, in part because these concepts have become either or. Either it's gender and sex or it's access control, but really not understanding the analytical continuity between these ideas. So it's linking the feminist theories of knowledge with the analytical concepts, but also with the practice of training. And oftentimes, I think we miss that in training of trainers. Yes, people talk about different methods for brainstorming activities or warm-up exercises, but what about the trainer itself? How does the trainer remain reflexive, which means really understanding their role within the learning process, the role within this industry called development, so we call it positionality, understanding one's positionality, and understanding through ideas of being critically reflexive or analytical about what am I doing and how am I doing it, what ways am I actually promoting transformatory thinking, what ways am I actually reproducing dominant ideas that really have served to technicize what we feel are very strong analytical concepts. So once again, the idea is fluency is not only in terms of the ideas, but in terms of the actual practice of gender training itself.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that the word depoliticization is very valuable. I have used it in a very early article, but it's often misunderstood. I think all knowledge paradigms compete for space, and we have very, very dominant and hegemonic models of development into which we have to fit. We have to fit a transformatory form of knowledge into these dominant paradigms. And that's where the challenge comes. And I think every single gender trainer is faced with this difficulty because they're always asked to do gender and something. And that something always follows the disciplinary paradigm of that particular discipline. And we simply have to add gender onto it and stir, and not to disturb it. But the point of our training is actually to get the conceptual fluency to be able to disrupt and disturb the taken for granted meanings of what it is to do development.
So an example of that is currently we're involved in gender and agriculture research and development training. And as you know, right now the current interest in agriculture research and development and agriculture more generally is about increasing productivity. Sometimes you have to win at what costs. And so gender training is often situated or positioned in ways where how do we make women, in particular women farmers, more productive. And we're saying, well, it's not only that, it's actually looking at the social relations of production, looking at the social aspects of agricultural development and what that actually means for actual people other than being able to produce more. And then does that necessarily mean better livelihoods or decrease in food insecurity? So it's really using these concepts in a way that really, as Boyce said, disturbs these dominant ideas in development we have about development and the different subsectors that it's applied to.
Yes, if I can add, I think from our work, what we have found is that the politics, the personal politics of gender trainers, the politics of the commissioning organization, and the politics of the context where the training is organized, they may not necessarily complementary. I think this is the questions that one of our participants, Anupriya, she sent to us earlier in terms of how we are working with gender trainer to ensure that there are some discussions or there's not that there's way to manage different politics in gender training, and how do we deal with that to ensure that the knowledge it's authentic or the knowledge is useful for participants regardless of where we are coming from in terms of our personal politics and also the politics of the organizing commissions that ask for that training. So is this program only for gender trainers? Yes, Frank.
Answer that question, just come to one point. I guess what we're saying about the fluency coming to that idea is, and not to pick too much on words, Cam, but it's not really necessarily managing issues. It's about having the conceptual fluency to understand why is that participants are saying what they're saying and to go beyond that. So in some way you can call that resistance when people say, why, I really think it's about this. So there's often something behind the agendas or the agendas of development that they represent. And for trainers, we think part of that fluency is to be able to make that analysis, understand, what I see what that person is really saying is this, and these are the ways that I can navigate and help them think through different ways of knowing. And I guess true to once again, the feminist sort of views of knowledge, we're trying to get people to be analytically critical, not to say there's one way of truth or one way of understanding gender, but what are the different ways and how do they actually mutually inform each other or differ or reproduce each other? So it's really that part of the professional development of trainers is to develop that fluency in the analysis of what's happening within the training context, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we're stressing in this course is because we will be interacting with people who have been training, that we don't assume to know everything. It's not that we know and we will impart. It's a process of co-creation, because we have to struggle to try and apply and ask the questions in the field or work area of work that we're doing or being asked to train on, and to see how the apprentice knowledge can be used to do that questioning. And to do that, we need to co-create. That is, we need to make the process of working together, co-creation, very, very conscious, and laid out exactly how we are interpreting social relations of gender and what kind of knowledge paradigms we are coming from.
Yeah. So questions are coming in, and this is the question we have. So this program, is it only for gender trainers, or it's for a broader groups of people? And if people attend this program, the 6-month program, what can they expect?
Great. Okay. It is for gender trainers for a very specific reason, in that we do see by working with gender trainers that we're able to address some of these wider issues of gender and development. That being said, we don't have a very strict definition of a gender trainer. So for example, trainers who are working with women's leadership or with women's rights are also very welcome, because we also want a diversity of ways of thinking about transformatory change within the development context. So we invite others who are doing training, really has to be part of this. And for example, what about gender specialists or advisors? Certainly there's an overlap between these two. We're looking for people who have these backgrounds, but definitely looking for people who have training experience, because that's the common basic experience from which we want to reflect and extend and use as the food for our engagement and critical reflection.
Okay. And can you tell us a little bit about tell the participant a little bit how the program is going to be structured, and what would be their roles in the program as participants?
Okay, so we'll just maybe ask you to turn off the camera, and if you could pass the control over to us.
Okay.
Okay, can you see the diagram up?
I think it's coming.
It's either program domains. Okay, show my screen. Okay, it should be coming now.
Okay.
Okay, you have it?
Yeah, it's on. I can see it now.
Okay.
So the professional development course is, we thought about it in 3 areas of knowledge. One is the conceptual depth and clarity that we want to develop, all of us together.
Mm-hmm.
The second area is about the feminist practices of doing development, where you critically question the systems of knowledge that have gone into these practices, as well as historically what we have been able to develop in terms of feminist practices. Like, for example, co-creation, solidarity, cooperation in creating and developing something. Then the third, of course, because we are gender trainers, we will be working on skills and methods to be able to translate into an understanding of our of the area of work that we're dealing with.
All right. Should I? Okay. So I just will open this up a little bit. Sorry. The overall program is based on, oh, here we go. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. It's based on, okay. Oops. Okay. It's based on 3 modules over 6 months. In between each module is a period of virtual learning and peer mentoring and based around homework assignments. So the first module is the conceptual clarity module. So it's theoretical perspectives on gender development. That's a 1-week workshop that will be held in Amsterdam. Between the first module and the second module is a homework assignment, and through virtual platforms, we'll have peer mentoring and also virtual learning with the instructors. The second module is called Development Sectors from a Gender Perspective. It is a virtual module over 4 weeks, where we'll be diving into specific development sectors based on the particular interests of the participants. So you also want this to be very applied and using these conceptual tools to particular areas so that participants gain that conceptual depth in an area. Then we go into the next homework assignment, which is a practice assignment. So there's again, a practical element to this program where people will be designing and delivering training on their own with the support of the instructors and their peers virtually, so that they're actually applying and using some of these ideas within their practice. The last module, the third module, happens in Amsterdam. It's 1 week, where we will be looking at policy and practice in international development, but as well as peer reviewing people's homework assignments as a way of really better understanding how they will be able to engender their training, both practice and content, with these particular analytical concepts that they're introducing, as well, again, look at gender trainers' role within the overall industry.
I just want to emphasize that in each of the virtual learning and peer mentoring events, side by side, we're also dealing with training methods and trying to practice them. And so, what are the appropriate methods is part of the questioning, but also practice, methods practice. And the third module specifically has a number of practice sessions, which we will, which we will elaborate in the course of the program.
Great, thank you, Maitreyi and Frank. And lastly, just a promotional message to our participants. Why people should choose our program instead of other programs?
Okay, well, thank you for that. So, as far as we know, we did do an extensive mapping of training of trainers program. So once again, this is quite different from a training of trainers workshop. So we need to see this as a program that's integrated different ways of learning and both a strong theoretical and practice components. A. B, it's the only one that we know with the explicit aim of reclaiming the feminist potential of gender training. With very explicit, and I think that's why we're quite pleased to be working with UN Women, because also you've made that agenda as part of real explicit in your work. So it's really about very targeted audience, people who really see the transformatory potential and the limits, of course, of gender training, and how do we bring to bear and to reclaim it as a feminist space.
Yeah, and with this, I think it's important to also address why it's so different in terms of teaching pedagogy, because here we're stressing how different it is from the technical delivery of training method of pedagogy. Because here we're stressing intersectionality feminist knowledges, to be flexibility, positionality, and all of these are central to the way in which the pedagogy works. So that's why I think we are doing something different from the standard gender training or training of trainers as France.
And the last one would be, and to reiterate, is what you introduced before, is this co-creation process. That is recognizing participants' experience and knowledge, and they bring that to the program, but also bring to bear how do we do that from a critical perspective and ourselves as well. So it's really this co-creation.
Okay, great. So I hope you have convinced our participants to apply. Now we have a very long list of questions that we have. Leticia, are you there?
Yes, Cam. Thank you.
Okay, can you put them up, or you want me to read them out?
Yeah, no, I'm putting them just as we speak.
Okay.
Just a moment, please.
There are some questions about scholarship. There's some questions about the application process. I mean, just we have a lot of questions. In terms of application process, you can visit the brochures and also the website. It's quite detailed. There's a lot of questions on the concept and the content of the program. So these are up. So I'm going to read out quickly. Question from Rocio Bakila. How could gender intersectionality, I think she corrected later on, how could gender intersectionality used as a tool to modify organization and to help gender trainers? I'm not sure if I understand correctly. Hang on, she said, I would believe that how we discuss gender intersectionality in this training.
Yeah. Well, Nick Chester. I mean, I think that's actually fundamental to how we, again, drawing on the feminist roots of this work. It's understanding that that gender is about a social position, and where gender is one mark of that social position, but you have other markers. And also it's about a social relation. Gender is social relations. So we're really trying to understand not only about people's different social markers, but how they're different social positions. So intersectionality is key to our work, in particular to understand women and men not as homogeneous categories. I think that's also
not as binary categories.
So intersectionality is a lens that helps us really unpack that and resist what we would say is a very tendency for development to homogenize and dichotomize. And we really want to resist that, because then we get into all sorts of other trouble. And B, it's not very helpful as an analytical concept if it's just this or that. That really doesn't help us understand the world or social phenomena better.
Yeah, because social reality is complex. I'd like to take the next question, if I may. What the audience target of the professional developer? Is the program opening? Oh, sorry. I think it's what I want to take the fourth one, which is about translating the language of academia and complexities of gender inequality, including feminist theories, for an audience that is new to the issues of gender equality and women's empowerment. Now, this is really our challenge.
Yeah.
So this challenge always has been the problem, as Franz was just saying, that we have tended to rely on these homogeneous categories and to define gender in very binary terms as being this and that, and not to be able to use the feminist theories to actually investigate or to make people aware of the socially constituted nature of relations, that it is different in different contexts and in times of history. We say this often, we say this in a gender training, but we don't actually use those insights to investigate how the particular people you're training and their disciplinary backgrounds addresses the question of social change. Now, that's what we were saying. We wanted conceptual fluency. That is that not only do you know and understand certain principles and background insights to feminist ways of looking at social change, but that you're able to actually translate this into a practice for people who may be thinking and are brought up in a different way. I mean, disciplinarily brought up in a different way. That's what we're doing, and that's what we really are interested in doing. Otherwise, we can't.
Yeah.
Maybe I could answer a few of the questions, the second, third, and last ones. So maybe starting with the last first. This is the first time we have offered a 6-month professional development, a certified professional development program for gender trainers, and the first time with UN Women. That being said, Kit has collaborated with UN Women in the Training Center in the past for quite a few years, so we certainly have been collaborating and thinking about gender training. And the design of this program, while we have not delivered it previously, draws on a number of other training programs for which Kit has delivered going back as much as 15 years. I probably should mention somewhere that Kit's ran for about 10 years the only European English language gender training program in the, what was it, in the 90s?
Yeah, actually we began in 89, but since the mid-90s we were, yeah.
And that morphed into different subjects, gender governance, participation, citizenship, and so we have that experience. Secondly, of course, the team itself, our experienced trainers, having delivered training and training with trainers in different contexts. And we've also modeled this program on our work with women's leadership. So really this idea of building in a sustained learning process that combines both face-to-face and virtual and theoretical with the practical. So these are all drawing upon previous experiences. And the other question about can young professionals apply? In its current iteration, we are focusing on mid and senior level trainers for a number of reasons. And I mentioned before is to base the training and learning on a foundation of experience. Secondly, we also see that as a particular audience of trainers who, I suppose, have been around the block for a while. They're probably a little, seen quite a bit, and are looking for a way to reconnect, looking at a way to reinvigorate, looking at a way to re-energize. Hence the focus of it senior level. And I'd say we also want a diversity of trainers and training experience from different contexts, with different parts of the world. So we recognize that the course fee is not affordable for everybody. We are currently in negotiations with different donors to provide scholarships. So we ask people whether you can self-fund or not self-fund to still apply, indicate that you'll be looking for funding, and we then hope to be able to offer a limited number of scholarships to be confirmed, but we are in active discussions with those people.
Yeah. Great. And another question from Janet Wong. I think this is our rep in Bangladesh. Janet was asking about how we are dealing with gender binary in the training, and also translating complex language of feminist theory in training. Yeah, and she would like to hear more on what this means for this program and for practitioners.
Okay, is the point that how do we integrate LGBT rights without adding and stirring?
Mm-hmm.
As we've done with women in the past. Exactly, Janet. It is not about adding and stirring. We didn't get very far with adding women and stirring. That's why gender went out of the politics of development, because we added and stirred. about because we stress, and it's very important, and I will kind of underline because we are dealing here with the socially constituted nature of relations. We're dealing with social relations and what can be known about social relations. Because we are dealing with the politics of position rather than only of identity. It is about integrating LGBT issues more fundamentally because they intersect, they cannot just stand in a row. It's about understanding social reality with many dimensions of the social and sexual experience. So, yeah, having said that, of course, we also analyze everything from the point of view of it being gender. The experience of being lesbian, gay, is also gender. And that's our, kind of strong positioning from which we are. But we distinguish between the politics of position and the politics of identity. And we are, because we deal with intersectionality in a way that gives us the different dimensions, analyze the different dimensions of social life and our sexual selves, we do not add LGBT issues on and stir, but we look at them.
Maybe I can take the next one, I think it's an interesting one, from Anu. I am a gender specialist and have experienced the development of humanitarian sectors as allergic to feminist theory and practice. I'm not sure what the question is, but I guess what we're trying to do in this program is to make feminist theory practice intelligible to those who may be allergic. And how does one do that as a trainer? How does one position oneself to remain faithful to these ideas, that's the right term, but also to bring them into an analysis? And I think that's part of the sticky issue being a gender trainer. And it's through the conceptual clarity we talked about, it's the practice part that I'm going to be talking about, the methods, and also using or understanding particular themes from a feminist analysis that can bring to bear these ideas that make sense to people who are working at, who may be quote unquote allergic. And more often than not, we do have people in our trainings who say they're allergic, but when they understand what this is about, some remain less allergic, of course, not everybody.
I find the last one very interesting. I'm not from Italy. I'm from Italy, not a developing country. Can people working with reference training also people working in developed countries? Well, as Franz and I were saying, this is to invite diversity. So if there are political issues in your own country and you have been struggling and training on these issues from women's rights point of view, then I think you should consider taking this. However, having said that, our training is very much situated in development. So it asks the question of how can development be more meaningful in terms of social change and gender equality and the equality of all people.
Yeah. Okay. Paula Casimiro has asked many times about scholarship. I think it has been addressed. There are scholarship available. I think we encourage everybody to apply. We are working with different funders and donors to see if there are availability of funding to support different applications. So I think let's not hinder our desire by not applying. Just apply first, and then we would discuss if we have more funding and we can think together creatively on how we can support different applications. There would be the video, the webinar is recorded, so it would be uploaded online, and if you cannot if you couldn't hear well earlier, the earlier part, there would be another session today at 10 o'clock. Yeah. More questions about the processes and the procedures of the course. What are the conditions for the course? How the course is organized? Will there be support for the 2 meetings in Amsterdam? What happened during the online session if some participants have to travel or are not part of the or are not able to attend the course? How are we organizing this?
Right.
Course? Yeah.
So module 2 is the virtual module, the only virtual module, and that is where we will be doing small group presentations with the support mentors of particular sectors. Those will be recorded, so A, if you can't attend a particular session, you can listen to it later, and B, we will of course try to schedule presentations around people's schedules. The actual virtual learning and networking is based also on people's schedules in a sense that when they're one-on-one mentoring from instructors and resource people, then we can schedule that around people's timetables. And certainly when you're in your small group networks, it'd be more like posting boards as opposed to live interaction. So people will be allowed to, over time, respond to and ask questions. So when people are in Amsterdam, they will be fully supported. We'll be working with people for accommodations. Of course, the training will be here at KIT. We're actually now here in one of the famous rooms at KIT, which is a wood library. And but of course, people will have to apply for their own visas, of which we will provide them the proper documentation and support they need to get their visas. And we realized, in our timetable, we understood this can be a rather long process, so we will give people ample time to apply for their visas.
Yeah. If I can summarize, Saif, our Saudi question, and also we have a question offline earlier today, is regarding how we are providing gender training in relation to religious context. How we integrating religions into gender training, for example, in the Islamic context or Christian context. How this would be addressed in the program.
Well, we do have, we treat the understanding of religion very differently to what is now commonly practiced in international organizations. We look at it as part of social life and the changing cultures of different places historically and of context. So in that sense, we don't think that people follow either the Quran or the Bible by going around with the scriptures in their hand. We believe that these social practices come from both faith as well as from the social rules that are prevalent in any given context or society. So this is about the social relations of gender discourse, and it's about how it works itself out in development, and it's about social change. So that's the only way we in this course can deal with these topics. I have not quite understood the last question that is here. Women play active role in a concerned community. Why? Is that asking why do we think that women play an active role in a concerned community, or that they do and then the challenge is why? I think more interesting would have been to ask that women and men play active roles in a concerned community. And what are these roles and how can we, as development organizations, support and develop these roles? So, yeah.
And perhaps just as an example of what this training is about, those two last questions sort of maybe suggest that this is about a professional development program for gender training. It's not gender training itself. It's people who are doing gender training. So the idea of religion, there's not going to be a module on gender religion. It's going to be about how do we, religion will come in different, as a theme in different topics. So for example, what she was talking about, the social institutions and religion being one. And how does that produce and reproduce particular social rules? And how do we need to understand that as development practitioners, particularly the community? So absolutely what you were saying, yes, men and women do particular roles in the community, but why is it certain peoples or certain voices are heard and not others? Why is it in development we tend to privilege some voices in the community and others? And how do we use our gender analysis concepts and convey those to training participants wanting to learn about gender to understand the community and its place as the social relations within a community and how basically power plays out at that level, and us, the development agents, interact with that. So that's where the analysis comes.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. So I think that's all the questions that we have. We might not have answered every question thoroughly, but I would encourage you to send us the questions offline to our emails. We will respond to them. Again, the webinar is recorded and we will post it up, and there would be another one at 10 o'clock if you are interested to listen again for the part that you couldn't hear. Well, any last word, Frank and Maitreyi, before we end?
We are actually very much looking forward to this training. We're very much looking forward to our pro-co collaborators, that's what I would consider the participants, and sharing their experiences with us, and together us creating a way of doing gender training within organizations and international development that is about social change.
Well, one thing I just also add, I think the questions were great. They already indicating that people have different sets of questions and are feeling open to ask those. And really, this program is about creating a safe space for trainers who are supposed to really have all the answers to sit down with their peers and ask these questions, and also for us, well, what's behind that question? Why are we thinking about that? So it's really just heartening to see that people are asking very relevant and important questions.
Yeah. And from our side, from the training center, we are really looking forward to work with the team, with KID team, and also on this program, because it's very important to rethinking the way we do gender training and how we can contribute meaningfully to the work on promoting gender justice and women's rights. So thank you. So we are going to call it in now, and then we'll see you again in the next couple of hours. And I hope we receive applications from participants today. And like what Maitreyi said, that we hope to meet these co-creators, and then we continue to work together for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
All right, thank you everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for participating. Bye-bye.